Big Drive Energy podcast coming to you on a Monday. We are part of the Golfer Gang Network. Make sure to go check them out. Awesome golf podcasts, awesome golf content from a great group of guys and gals. So make sure to check out the Golfer Gang Network today on Big Drive Energy. Big Drive Mitch went to Florida. We're going to discuss that whole trip. I'm sure he had a great time down there in the Snake Pit. We're going to talk about the Valspar, the experience. We've been to a few tour events, so going to kind of get his feels on what that was like down there. Viktor Hovland, is he back? We're going to discuss if Viktor Hovland is in fact back or it was just another choke job by one Justin Allen Thomas. I just made up his middle name. Not sure if that's what it is. Rio Hisatsuni. We'll try to discuss that. My pronunciation is not going to be great, but he has an absolutely wild putting routine. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in my life. We'll get into that. Also talk about Billy Horschel's incredible shot yesterday, which made its rounds on Twitter. And we have Mulligan Monday as always. All right, let's tee it up. Big Drive Energy live on YouTube on a Monday. If you're watching on the YouTube, make sure you give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. If you're listening to us audibly, we'd appreciate if you go rate our show. We can use all the help we can get to keep Big Drive Energy and the train rolling along the tracks. I am at Big Drive Spence here with my brother at Big Drive Mitch. If you've never been here before, we're going to talk about Mitchell's weekend in Florida at the Valspar Championship. I'm excited to hear all about it. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about my weekend just because it's light, short, sweet, to the point, and then you can go off on all of the awesome things you saw this weekend. So my weekend, pretty solid. Went up to the hill, went up to Blackhawk on Saturday night, actually made some money. Left with a couple $100 more than I came with, and that was a win. I am very pumped about it. Won some money playing blackjack.
Well, so I got to ask you this. I know, let's just backtrack a little bit because you've been using your son as a gambling tool, and I honestly am enamored with these videos. I think they're fantastic, and I think he's what, 4-1 or 5-1 now.
5-2. We got 4 picks on Friday, or 4 picks on Saturday, 3 picks yesterday, and he missed the Oregon Ducks by half a point. So we were half a point away from being 6-1 on the weekend.
I mean, you got to keep doing this. I honestly think you got to post this shit on TikTok, or you got to post it somewhere, because if he goes viral for gambling picks, what if his record's like 20-5 at the end of the fucking college basketball? Like, I'm going to start trailing Saw Dogs. I think maybe we need to hashtag trail Saw Dogs.
That's the funny part is I was just bored on Saturday morning. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to do this once. I'll post this video, see what happens. And I got like 25 or 30 Instagram responses that are like, we're going to need the whole board. We're going to need all the picks. And I'm like, oh God, okay. And so then it became fun, but then he got like annoyed doing it and he wouldn't do it anymore. So that's why we only got 4 picks Saturday and 3 Sunday, because he was getting visibly angry with me as I was like holding him back to go pick the toys, or he was just getting completely distracted and going to pick some other toy that he actually wanted to play with instead of playing his dad's little games. So he was on to me, but we still got 7 out there.
Maybe you put the 2 out there, and if he goes and picks a different toy, then you're just off that game. Maybe he just doesn't have a good vibe. And so you post that and you're like, we're staying off this one. It's too tight. But you're kind of turning your kid into a child actor at this point. So maybe he's already fucking sick of you. You need to start giving him some royalties on your Twitter videos. You're just fucking farming your son out for content. But I love it. Like, he's my nephew. So first of all, I think he's the cutest kid in the world. But also, it's just absolutely hilarious. And he's on a heater. Like that's a thing about sports betting is it doesn't work until it works. Or you don't, it can be the most random fucking thing in the world, but if it works, you're going to keep doing it. So until he hits a cold streak, I'm going to need more picks coming through. Like it's that like corgi. Have you seen the videos of that corgi that hit the ball into the basket? Like that's Saw Dogs at this point.
Yeah, he's 100% just a show pony for these college basketball picks. There was a few people too that were like, I'm tailing all of these, right? And I was like, yes, but this is not on you. And it made me feel a lot better because it's just a random pick. Like if I were to sit down and do research and talk and bet exactly what I had hoped on those exact same 7 games, zero chance I'm going 5-2. Not
You'd
a
be more
cold
like 2 and
chance
5 for sure.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I was struggling Thursday and Friday. Very chalk March Madness so far. But a lot of dogs are covering. And Sawyer, I mean, the dogs were barking for him yesterday. UConn and Colorado State both easily covered their point spreads, lost by 2 points and 1 point respectively when they were both 8+ point dogs. And it was funny because one of my other buddies, the first game Sawyer picked on Saturday was Purdue. And so he's a Purdue fan. So I sent it to him. And then, he was like obviously enjoying it. And then he bet Purdue pretty big. And so did I. And we hit. But then yesterday, I was like, he's like, what's the kid on today? And I'm like, well, he started out with UConn and then he went to CSU. And he goes, oh, 2 absolutely gross picks. And then they go 2-0. I was like, dude, it's not stump the swab, it's stump the saw dog.
Yeah,
You should not be stuck. Fucking foolproof, ironclad picks.
In all honesty, I think people like almost love being told what to gamble on because then they don't feel like it's on them. And I am the exact same way. Like you said, if you do any research, sports gambling is very similar to golf, where if you think you know enough, you definitely don't, and you're fucked. Like you either need to know absolutely nothing or you need to know everything, and nobody knows everything. So you're better off knowing nothing and just having a third party pick for you, which I am totally in on Saw Dogs. Could you imagine though if people were DMing you like your son's 0-5, fuck off, like tell like they DM college players telling them just the most out of pocket shit. Like your son is now a sports handicapper.
Yeah, we should maybe go get him his own Twitter account and I'll start tweeting out the pics. I did think about making a TikTok now that you just, about 5 minutes ago when you said that, but I don't have a personal TikTok account. So maybe I need to start that and maybe it'll go semi-viral. If you would have went 7-0, it had a chance to go viral. 5-2 is impressive in its own right, but I don't think it's enough to get the juices flowing. Maybe next weekend I'll put together a little overlay, a little video and get all 8 picks for the Sweet 16 and see how he does.
Well, honestly, it wasn't even my idea. It was Missy's idea. She goes, those are hilarious. He needs to put those on TikTok. So obviously you can't overtake our Big Drive Energy account with your son's gambling picks, but I think you could throw together, what could we call it? Saw Dogs. Oh God. What would be a good, or what's an S?
Saw locks.
I was going to say Saw Locks. That would be Sawyer's. Oh God, yeah. Let's have a group think on that later. Let's have what's the corporate term?
We'll workshop it. We'll
Yeah,
workshop that and circle back before we put a pin in that one.
Okay, yes. But honestly, just to put a pin in this conversation, you need to keep doing those because I got a fucking kick out of them and it seemed like everybody else did. So post it on social media, post it wherever, but I need picks going forward. And real quick, let's talk about Tyler Warren's while we're on college basketball. Where are you ranked right now? I think we're actually 1 and 2 in this pool of 21 dudes.
Why don't you pull up the standings and see where Daddy's ranked? Because I checked this morning.
Okay. Well, do you know, I had CSU going to the Sweet 16, and that was fucking painful. Bless you. I am in the 89th percentile. I am ranked $2.5 million. Okay, I'm in third place now. Fuck off. I'm back by 20 points to you. So
Just a
I
couple
definitely
games.
took.
I do have the Razorbacks, so that was huge for me. I've got Wisconsin in there. I think I have BYU in there as well. So I'm kind of
What,
cooking. Other than
Wisconsin lost to BYU.
oh, okay, yeah. I thought no, maybe maybe I do have BYU or maybe I have Wisconsin. I don't fucking know. I only did a couple brackets, but I'm still lost. The biggest L I'm taking in the ESPN bracket that I knew in 2020 hindsight's 2020. I get it. I'm not gonna don't mansplain gambling to me. Not you, but just anybody. But Creighton was the far better team, and I actually had Creighton going to the Sweet 16 in some brackets, and I know they lost in the second round, but for some reason I picked Louisville in this one, and then I also had them beating Auburn because I just thought Auburn was going to lose. Now I was wrong on that, no matter if it was Creighton or Louisville. But then it's just I got a little down the rabbit hole and felt like I needed few more upsets. And honestly, the one seeds had it rough in the second round, like having to play Creighton, who was a good Big East team, and then Florida having to play UConn, a two-time back-to-back national champion. I mean, the 8 and 9 seeds were tough cookies in this tournament, but now we're sitting here and it's the first time in the tournament history that less than 7 conferences are represented in the Sweet 16. And there's only
That's insane.
4. So that's the jump that it took, is going from minimum of 7 all the way down to only 4 conferences. And I believe 7 SEC teams in the Sweet 16, 6, something like that.
Is there
So
any non-power 4 conference teams in there?
no, just Big 10, SEC, Big 12, and the ACC.
Wow.
Only 4.
So yeah, it truly has been the chalkiest of chalk years. And that was the thing, is I did the same thing where you go back through a bracket and it's all chalk. Like Jay Billis put out his Final Four and it was all 1 seeds. Like who the fuck? And even if that does happen, that you just can't do that because it just makes you look like a non-ball knower. So one of my biggest swings and misses was I had Clemson going to maybe the Elite 8 or the Sweet 6, at least the Sweet 16. So them getting knocked out round 1 was painful for me. Other than that, I did hit on quite a few, but there's a few that I whiffed on. I had CSU going to the Sweet 16, so that was painful. Did you think that was a travel? I mean, it's kind of been talked about.
Dude, I watched it live and I didn't even consider it being a travel. Watching the slow-mo views and the more people are talking about it, I do kind of see it, but they're never going to call that in that moment. And it's unfortunate for sure. But there was a much more, did you watch the end of that game? Just like the
Yes, I
whole
did.
second half. There was a much more egregious travel late in the second half from Maryland where the guy took 3 steps, was basically out of bounds, and they didn't call that and it turned into a dunk.
Yes,
So there was
I said
the refs were missing a few.
Well, and that's the thing is it seemed I feel like I'm turning into a bit of a curmudgeon, a sports curmudgeon. I can't tell if it's me or if it's just sports going so far in the wrong direction where I'm watching, and even, NBA basketball, NCAA basketball, we turn on the CSU game and immediately I'm like, how is that not a foul? And then where's the travel? Like all I'm doing is bitching about calls. And I guess I just got to care less and just understand that these refs generally suck. Like all of them. I rarely, and I don't know, maybe it's just the Denver fandom in me where I feel kind of little brother-ish. Like I feel like they've kind of got it out for us, but every time I turn a game on, I can visibly see it feels like some sort of bias in one direction or the other that's just not being called. And I saw, and then there was a bunch of CSU fans on Twitter, I guess, being like, if that was CSU, they would have called a travel. I really don't think they would have called it either way. But can you imagine if they did call that a travel to basically annul a fucking game-winning shot? Like that would have been number 1 play on SportsCenter or first thing talked about.
Oh, 100%. And that was the only, out of all the games played so far, the only buzzer beater, and really one of the only close games. I mean, the UConn Florida game was close, but I think that's been the lamest part. Is I don't mind the favorites winning, and it's getting to a point where if I spin this in a positive light, a silver lining to this tournament is the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight is going to be awesome because it's teams that actually belong there. And everybody loves the Cinderella runs, but once you get to the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, you got a 12 seed that's kind of found their way there. Then they get blown out, and it makes those games not as fun. So, not saying there's not going to be any blowouts. Sports can go every which way, no matter how good everybody thinks the teams are. But I think overall, it's going to make the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, electric basketball. Like all those teams look like they belong there. There's not like that dragon with the tongue sticking out of any of the teams. I mean, maybe Arkansas, but they have Coach Cal, one of the greatest, if not the greatest coach of all time in college basketball, and the greatest recruiter of all time for sure. So we'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to another weekend of basketball. Real quick, one thing, I got two things actually. One thing, we went to a 1-year-old birthday party yesterday, first birthday party for my nephew. It was exactly as you'd expect. My son was running amok around this fucking place, and he had to go outside like 5 different times, obsessed with the balloons. And there was like probably 15 kids there. They were all a little older than him, granted, but except for the 1-year-old, obviously, whose birthday was. And dude, they were just sitting down, coloring, eating their noodles. And my son is just flying around this place like a fucking whirling dervish, just hitting balloons off the tables, playing balloon volleyball with himself and everybody that would play with him, hitting people in the head with balloons. I couldn't control him. It was just pretty disheartening as a parent. And dude, it's honestly made me think like the next kid that we have, I kind of want a girl. Like I'm pushing more towards a girl because they just seem so chill. They just sit there and they color and they have their, hair in these little ponytails and they're just coloring and being all fun. And then I look to the side and my kid's just like ramming his head under the table. He's trying to, some of the gifts were unwrapped. There was like a little mini fire truck that you could ride that was unwrapped. He hops on it. I'm like, dude, that's not yours. That's like a gift. And I know he doesn't understand. Like I'm not an asshole that thinks my 20-month-old should understand all this stuff. I can't be an asshole. But
did you just 20-month-old me?
Well, my 1-year-old, my almost 2-year-old. I don't know. I'm really ready for him to be 2, and I can just be out of it. How old is he? 2. I'm really ready for that. The other thing I wanted to get to, some kind of breaking news for you, essentially. This is hilarious. You're gonna get a fucking kick out of this. So if you notice, I put my PGA. I was like, I needed something in this office when I do my podcasts. So I put my PGA certification letter from 2016 in there. Let me read you this email I got from the Colorado PGA on Thursday. Congratulations on your Colorado PGA Special Award nomination. Complete by April 27th. Dear Spencer Smith, congratulations on being nominated for a 2025 PGA Section Award. You have been nominated for the following award, the Todd Fippers Media Award. To be considered, you must complete and submit online application form that corresponds with the award. The deadline is April 27th. So I am up for a PGA Media Award. Can you fucking believe that? Like, I don't know if I was nominated by someone else, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I'm filling that shit out. I'll show up to the meeting if I'm getting an award. Can you imagine? It'd be electric.
I mean, that would be electric. That'd put Big Drive Energy on the map. Maybe we can have a seminar day with the UCCS PGM program. I think they all need to hear from us, about our lives in golf and in social media. No, I mean, I honestly thought that the PGA would be reaching out and being like, we no longer want to be associated with you. We've seen the clips. We've heard the podcast. We've seen the videos. We do not want to be associated with you any longer. That's kind of the direction I thought they would be going in. More of like a cease and desist just in general of what you're doing for the game of golf. But in all honesty, I think the PGA is smart to embrace this type of thing. They can't give the same award to every just golf magazine that sits in the toilets of pro shops every year. And they got to get a little creative. They got to switch it up. And Spencer Smith is just new media. So do you consider yourself a part of the media? Is that Are you going to Dan Rappaport? Are you going to sit in the presser room and ask the hard-hitting questions? Are you ready to deliver that kind of coverage for the PGA of Colorado?
No. The only thing I was good for in the press conference with Wyndham Clark at the BMW Championship, where we then had a bunch of videos revoked, was my fucking alarm going off. That was the only sound that I made in that entire press conference, was the goddamn alarm going off on my phone. So that's not going to change. The alarm situation will change, but
that was
no questions from me at this time.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Just to the subject of golf press conferences, I just don't, and maybe, maybe I just don't take myself serious enough, or really anybody in the media, but I don't think there's one single question you could ask a golfer that would have any sort of consequence. Like, we did get some good sound bites from Viktor Hovland yesterday, but there's no, and maybe that's just the way media is nowadays, in my opinion. There's so many behind the scenes things, like media press conferences and newspapers. They used to be the first ones to get something from somebody. You know what I mean? It was on the headline of the newspaper and all of this, but you hear so much from guys' social media accounts and documentaries that are done and different outlets that the press conference is just like a foregone type of conclusion. And I saw a dude a couple weeks ago say that the PGA Tour guys' salaries depend on their relationship with the media, when Colin Morikawa said he owed the media nothing. And while Colin Morikawa was very soft for not being able to go and answer questions, did the Rory at the US Open Irish goodbye, I was also like, some of these fucking media members just think so highly of themselves. Like, they think that they control the narrative and they can steer sports in a certain direction, and they're like the heartbeat of a sport. And I'm like, you're lucky that you have this job. Like, some of these jobs are relative to a working man's 9 to 5. You're sitting in a press conference asking players questions. You don't need to be assholes to them. You don't need to like fucking get on them and then try to, pull a good soundbite out of them or get them to say something they don't want to say. Like, I don't know, the whole media landscape just kind of bugs me a little bit with their holier than thou type of mindset, where they think the players are there because of the media. Like, that it is, quite frankly, 100% the other way around.
No, exactly. And I think where that line gets clouded with a lot of media members is they are, where I'll defend the big J's and be part of the media here, is they are the connection between the fans and the players in any sport. It's really like the amount of the writing and the podcasts and all that kind of stuff is what people listen to, because they can't, a lot of players have podcasts nowadays, but it's really the connection of like hearing what's going on in locker rooms and in press conferences. And now social media has just kind of blown all of that up in general. But I do think they think that's way more important than it really is. And honestly, most of the time, it's really on the players to make a good interview, because a lot of the questions are pretty boilerplate bullshit, same thing. But if you listen to and heard Viktor Hovland's post-round interview yesterday, the stuff he just says unannounced is great. Like when he said, I hit a lot of disgusting shots this week and they just happened to go where I looked. Like, that was an all-time quote, and it wasn't asked. It wasn't like, hey, did you hit a disgusting shot this week? Or how many bad shots did you hit this week? Because they're not going to do that. But I do think it's a lot of the times the players have the opportunity to really go in and make a quotable moment. You're never going to hear a quote based on the question. It's the player that can either go okay, you asked me a boilerplate question, I'm going to continue and answer with that, with a boilerplate, boring answer. And a lot of these players go through media training and are supposed to say certain things. Golf is probably a little different because you're your own entity. You're not speaking for a team. But there was even a soundbite yesterday from one of the March Madness games, and they asked a kid what the coach does well, and he's like, he definitely pays us that bread. And there's just a picture of the coach like fucking hand in his head. So some of those guys, those are the best moments, is when they kind of go off the the path, or they continue to talk longer than a one sentence answer, because then you get good stuff out of them. And Viktor Hovland, for as bad as he's been the last couple of years and all the talks behind the scenes of his 17 swing coaches and swing changes, he's a great interview. So, and he's went deeper into the subject of his own bad shots, and he's laughing and smiling. So interviews like that are great. And, the media does have to bring us that, but overall it's just a lot of boring, well, how do you feel this week? And a player can take that and go, but a lot of the times they don't. They're just like, man, well, I feel good, feel fine, played here before.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the thing with like Viktor Hovland versus a lot of other players, is I think so many guys just look at it as they have nothing to gain by exposing themselves more to the media, to the people. And if they do want to do it, it can be on their own time on a YouTube channel, or everything is monetized nowadays. You know what I mean? I feel like, and Viktor Hovland is not in that group, but why would you give the media something quotable or whatever? Like, look at Draymond Green. The dude doesn't talk really about much of anything other than when he's on his podcast, he kind of lets it all fly. And I'm definitely not listening to the Draymond Green podcast, but people that like Draymond and listen to his shit, they definitely want to hear it straight from him rather than somebody asking him. And they just get to, nowadays the athletes get to control the narrative. They don't need to just sit behind and be asked questions, sit behind the desk and get asked questions that they have no control over. They can really kind of control how they're perceived and their public, how the public looks at them. But honestly, I will say that Viktor Hovland is probably one of the most well-liked dudes in golf. And he is a breath of fresh air because he does have a personality and he does have kind of a unique game, and he's very honest and very open about that. And a lot of players aren't. So it is kind of a breath of fresh air, but I just feel like none of the players really have much to gain by being that outspoken and being that honest. They really have, at the best, they're maybe publicly liked a little bit more, but at the worst they could totally like derail their career, lose sponsors, all this shit. So I just think a guy like Viktor, it is nice to see some refreshing comments that are out of the ordinary.
Yeah, something other than just the standard answer. So I'm hoping you're going to give me something other than a standard answer here, because you're not a standard answer guy. How was the Valspar Championship? Give me all the deets. I think I just said championship, and it happens. I'm kind of, in and out. I'm gonna be in and out a little bit. But how was the Valspar Championship? Talk to us about the week playing golf in Florida. How short were you hitting it out there? Give us everything.
Well, New Jersey has prepared me now for Florida golf, where I am hitting it probably about 250 yards off the tee. I did get a few of them out there, 260 to 270. I would say on average I'm between 250 and 260. And in all honesty, I just have grown to like get around. Like I really, when we used to go to sea level when I was still living in Denver, it would be like this gigantic wake up call where I'm like, holy shit, like I hit it absolutely nowhere. But now I don't know what it is. And maybe I have gotten a little bit longer, but it just doesn't seem to have the same like knock on me that it used to, where I never, and that is distance in general. I feel like for a lot of people, if you're hitting fairways and you're hitting good shots and you're playing well, then you don't need to be like looking at the tee box and counting your working back from the tee and being like, how far did I hit that tee shot? I mean, it is good to know how generally far you're hitting it, but you don't need to be dialed in on every single drive. Like, oh, I only hit that one 252 or, whatever. Like I would not really give a fuck less, where if I have a pitching wedge in on a par 4 on my second shot, no matter how far I hit my driver or what club I hit, and I'm sitting in the middle of the fairway, I feel like I have a good birdie opportunity. And that's ultimately coming down to just my scoring. So I definitely, I hit a lot of really
Let
good
me say
shots.
this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me say this real quick. If you're the drive up to the ball and try to figure out exactly how far you hit your drive every time guy, you need to reevaluate your golf game and kindly sit the fuck down in the cart. That's so annoying to me.
Well, yeah, and it's the dudes who care more about how far they just hit their drive than their approach shot, and they're the ones that end up making double bogey on a short par four, but they're like, well, I drove it 284 there. And it's like, who gives a fuck how far you hit it off the tee if you're not taking advantage of it and scoring from there? So yeah, those dudes are always the worst. And that is truly what I see with amateur golfers all the time is they're so worried about how far they're hitting it. And don't get me wrong, distance matters, but there's a lot of things to worry about before you worry about distance. Like I played with Justin Sternad, our buddy, once, Friday this last week. And the guy is an NFL athlete. He's 6'4", 240 pounds or whatever, fucking middle linebacker, outside linebacker, whatever. And the guy is clearly very capable of hitting it a long ways, but he is the first one to be like, I don't need to hit it that long. I want to hit it straight. And that is like, he probably shot somewhere in the mid to low 90s. We'll get into his round a little bit later for my mulligan of the week, but he is the one. A lot of people, it's just the grass is always greener. You know, you have the people that hit it longer than everybody, and they're the ones who are like, I just want to hit it straight. I just want to keep it in play. I just want to shoot lower scores. And then you have guys that hit it short and they're like, I just want to hit it long. Like, you know, it is truly play your own game type of scenario, which everybody always looks around at everyone else's games. And that is one thing I think I'm pretty good at relative to a lot of other people is just staying in my lane on the golf course. Like I know exactly what I'm capable of and I know exactly what I'm not capable of. And that generally bodes pretty well for me because you're not going to see me thinking I can hit 9-iron from a 170. Like that's just not in my wheelhouse. It's a 145 club basically for me, maybe 150 with a little help or, you know, whatever, but I'm never going to be the guy that tries to get outside of himself and do something miraculous. But yeah, the distances definitely, honestly, they they went a little further this week, so I didn't really have a problem there. But we played Doug's country club's called Ardea Country Club, which was formerly called Eastlake, and it's a 36 hole setup. So we played the North course on Wednesday afternoon, and then we played the South course Friday afternoon. And I think I shot 77 the first day and 76 the second day. So I didn't play great either day, honestly. But those dudes are like very impressed. Like I mean, the first day I played with one dude who is, I guess, a +2, and it's just so funny because this dude's a +2, and you can just tell like he really wants to like take it to me. He was already like kind of chirping off the bat and like not even necessarily directly chirping, but making like these underhanded comments. And it's just funny because I personally am just not I really could give a fuck less if he beat me or if I beat him. And I ended up beating him by like 3 or 4 shots. And this is this dude's home course. And he's like a +2. He just missed or lost the club championship last weekend, whatever. And this is my first time seeing this golf course. And I was just very unaffected by it. And not that I'm some fucking cool macho golfer, dude. I just really don't give a fuck. Like, I am out there to just play my own game. And if this dude beats me, fucking more power to you, dude. Or if I beat him, and we were all talking about it later, and they're like, oh, yeah, you beat this guy. I'm like, this guy really, not to sound cocky, but this guy was not like, I just didn't feel like I was pitted against him. I did end up beating him pretty handily. But then he
This
just goes
guy's not
around.
an issue.
Yeah, and he just like kept making excuses. He's like, "Oh, I'm just running on E. I'm fucking." I was like, "Bro, I don't need to." I literally got off a plane 2 hours ago, drove straight to the golf course, changed into my shit, hit like 10 balls, and I'm out here playing. So I don't need your excuses. You live on the 17th hole. You drove your golf cart out to this course, and it was funny because our buddy Dougie, by the way, just one of our good friends, fucking awesome dude, Dougie Ravello. Shout out to him. He was awesome. Garbs was awesome. We got to stay at his place. So we had a blast of a week, just in general statement there. But Doug is like a 6 to 7 handicap. And when you're in that zone, you think those dudes that are like the plus handicaps are like cool and they're trying to help you. And because they don't see you like as competition, they kind of like talk down to you a little bit. So Doug is like, oh yeah, this dude is super cool. Like, he's a lot of fun. And I honestly walked away from the round. I'm like, he was kind of a douchebag. Like, because he was, for instance, on the first hole, it was a par 5, water up the left. I hit my tee shot right. And this dude hits his tee shot in the water left. And he goes, I'll make par from there. And just like hops in the cart and flies off. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, go make par from there. Guess what he made? Bogey. Like, the dude, he was just very, the guys that make it evident that they're better than they're playing and they have to make excuses, it all comes out in the wash. You know, you're going to play bad rounds, you're going to play good rounds. But if you feel the need to vouch for your own golf game constantly and say, I'm never this bad, or I'm so worn out, or whatever, then you're probably not as good as you think you are. So it was funny because then we were talking to one of Doug's other buddies that is a good player, and he goes, oh yeah, that guy's a douchebag. Like, I did not enjoy playing golf with that guy. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I don't know what it was, but Doug was just like, this dude's super fun. He didn't say he was super fun, but legitimately on the first hole, I hit it to like 12 feet for eagle. I hit a good approach shot. I missed my eagle putt. I have a foot. And this dude goes, you need to make all birdies. Like, you can't take a gimme for birdie. I'm like, and mind you, we're playing as a 5-some and trying to play in 3.5 hours. And I looked at him on the first green and I said, well, we're fucking finishing 14 holes if you're going to make me tap in every 1-footer I have because it's a birdie. Like, and these guys, I guess, it's that group of hardcore players at a club. You know, you have those guys that all kind of push each other to get better. And I respect that, but that's a bridge too far for me. If you're making me tap in fucking 1-footers, like, sure, even 2.5. If it's questionable, knock it in.
Yeah, if it's questionable, you always got to knock it in. If it's like 2.5, 3 feet. But dude, going back to your comment, just in general, I think a lot of it is the fact that you're either perceived. I mean, you're clearly better than this guy, but you're perceived as better than him. And like, when somebody plays golf and they're playing with somebody that's better than they are, then you get your like hackles up and you're like, oh, I gotta fucking be better. And I'm not gonna lie, like, sometimes that happens to me, where when I went and played that 9 holes with Mark and Bill last week, Mark was clearly a fucking good player. And so I kind of was like, internally, I don't want to fucking lose to this guy. Now, I don't take it. That's a completely internal thing. I don't tell him he needs to tap in or tell him he needs to do anything.
Who's Mark and Bill?
The 2 dudes I walked Niner with at Inverness last week.
Okay.
The guy that called me fucking Sterling.
Like, I thought they were 2 old dudes.
They were old dudes. But I'm saying he was a good player. Like, the dude was old, but he was like, you could tell he was probably a scratch golfer 2 or 3. And I didn't want to lose to him, but I kept that internal, and I never said, hey, you need to make this putt, or you need to fucking hole this out, or you can't drop there. That's not the right spot. Like, in my internal battle with anyone else that I'm playing never makes it external, but I do feel that way. And that's probably 100% what that guy was like. Oh, I just lost the club championship this course. I'm not fucking losing to anyone on this golf course. And then he kind of took it a step too far. But for Doug's not a threat to this guy, so he doesn't need to be like, he's like, oh, I'm better than you. I'm going to shoot better than you. 9 out of 10 rounds, I just go out and play and have a good time. Whereas now the bigwig Miggs is in town, and he's like, fuck, I can't be losing to this rando from Jersey.
Well, and yeah, the funny part is I feel like a lot of these groups kind of have like an alpha dude that like feels like they run the show, and they can kind of say shit and they're never going to get any pushback on it. And I've gotten a little bit more outspoken when I just think people are full of shit. And so when I called this dude out a few times, immediately everyone was like looking around like, did you just say that to him? I'm like, he's fucking nobody, dude. He's not king of the castle out here. He's a fucking plus handicap at some random country club in Florida. Like, when you get that big fish in a small pond mentality where you think you fucking run the show and nobody can say anything to you. And then finally on like the second hole, Doug's like, yeah, after Mitchell said that shit on the second hole, we started just taking tap-ins. Because otherwise this dude was going to be like, oh, you need to do this. And it's like, you don't need to tell me to do anything. I've played golf plenty of fucking times. I know exactly how this works here. Like, you don't need to mansplain tap-ins and shit to me, and what's good and what's not. I know all the golf ins and outs. So that was pretty funny. I mean, but I enjoyed the golf courses. The greens were in really, really good shape. They were rolling really true. So I made a few putts that I probably shouldn't have. I don't think I 3-putted once in my 2 rounds, which was nice. And I did have a few putts where the speed was not great. So I made a lot of like 8 to 10 to 12 foot comebackers. But other than that, like I didn't hit the ball great. I was kind of battling a hook, which I need to get in the lab and kind of work on that. Just where I felt like I was having to hold it off so hard with the driver to not get it going left. And that's just kind of my distance journey here. I've started to swing a little bit more into out, which I'm fine with, but I just got to get the timing more dialed in. But should I get to the Valspar now? I feel like I've talked enough about myself here.
Yeah, let's hear about the Valspar Championship, which is kind of in the past has felt like kind of a throwaway event. Obviously, when you go to it, it makes it a little more exciting. But I feel like the names, the action, it's always a lower scoring event, in terms of the final overall score being at 12. I don't think it's guys are shooting even par and fighting it, and especially with the wind and the way it was Thursday, Friday. But JT, Viktor being up there, at the end of Sunday kind of made it a little bit better than it's been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say it's a good, solid event. Like, it's been there for a while. All the local people love it. It's definitely a great local. It's a great thing for the area, and I think everybody embraces it and they love it. They do a country concert every year on Saturday night, which this year they had Jordan Davis. Do you know the song "Buy Dirt"? I feel like he's most well known for that song.
Yeah, I was actually listening to that yesterday in the car, unironically.
I mean, in my opinion, he sings a lot of corny country shit. Like, he doesn't have any like country bangers that you really want to turn up and just like fucking roll the windows down and just jam out to. But overall, it was a good concert. I'm not going to poo poo the guy. He seemed like a lot of people seemed like they loved him. But the tournament itself, it definitely Thursday, when we went on Thursday, it was super quiet. Like, oddly, I had never seen a PGA Tour event have that few of people. And I think my view of things is slightly skewed because I am so used to, like, last year we were at the BMW and the Waste Management. Those are two of the bigger events. I mean, the Waste Management is the biggest spectator event of the year. And then the other one was the FedEx Cup playoffs. So this is a non-signature middle of March PGA Tour event. And considering that, like, on Saturday, the crowds were awesome. The crowds following Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas were through the roof. Like that, those guys are always the biggest pull. They're fan favorites. But Thursday was a little bit of an odd scenario where you forget that you can just like walk up next to these dudes and just watch them hit tee shots, and it's like there's like 10 people standing on the tee box. Like, I recognize Aldrich Potgeider, which I didn't. I held back my frustrations with him at the Mexico Open, but we were standing right next to the tee box, and it looked like his mom and dad were following him. And I was like, guys, watch how far this guy hits it. Like, he's fucking booming it out there. And Doug is very, very loud Italian dude. He was like yelling Potsy and shit right after he teed off. He's like, that was fucking laced, all this. Like, and Aldrich's family like loved it. They thought they like made their day that somebody was like recognizing him and rooting him on and that shit, which I find really cool. But it is truly insane how close you get to these guys and the kind of shit that, like, Viktor Hovland, for instance, Saturday afternoon coming up 17 and into 18, there's a tent, I forget what, grandstands in like a private tent behind the 17 green, and then you can walk out on the other side and stand right next to 18T. And there was one drunk dude like chirping Viktor in a good way, like positivity, but then Viktor goes over and addresses it, and then the guy is still chirping at him because he's fucking hammered. And this dude got fucking pee-pee whacked. Like, his caddy looks up, is like 20 feet up. He's like, okay, that's enough of that. Like, you can stop now. And the fucking dude just immediately like shut up. It was some dude in his 50s in a bucket hat just being a drunk fuck. But it truly is impressive how much chatter these guys deal with, like from the stands. It is literally never quiet. Like I wonder if it honestly is hard for them to play when it's too quiet out, because they get so used to this rolling noise in the background that's just an overarching like. And then there's guys on a green next to a tee, and if a guy makes a putt on the green, then there's a roar like in the middle of their backswing. Like there's just so much shit that a lot of people don't necessarily think about on a general day-to-day basis that PGA Tour players deal with. And I guess it depends on the player you are.
Dude, it makes you wonder if every single player we saw and talked about Rory snapping last week on that kid and taking his phone. It makes you wonder if every single player has like an internal snap line where there's like 5 or 6 things that if somebody says that, they're going to fucking lose it. You know, and there's guys that won't lose it ever. And then there's some guys that'll probably lose it quicker than others. But I think overall, it'd be curious to see if there's some things that if people know, you know, the player knows off the bat, like if this gets said, I'm fucking done. Or the shit they hear, they're just so taken aback by the random shit that people yell that they're like, they are not affected by it at all.
Yeah. Well, and that is one of the craziest things is just by nature of these guys making it out to the PGA Tour, they have to be some of the mentally strongest golfers in the entire world. And then they can hear like one sentence and it could completely fold their entire fucking round. It's just this house of cards that these guys have built up where they're so mentally confident and strong, but everybody's got a weak spot, you know? And that's what's funny is similar to what we were just talking about earlier with like the media is these guys have nothing to gain by reacting to what anyone is saying. And yet sometimes there's shit that gets to them. Like you said, they hear the wrong thing. And it usually goes back to like what did that kid bring up that he said to Rory? Something about the 2011 Masters where he snap hooked it into the fucking, into the cottages. Like there's certain things that stick in your mind. And if they get brought up, you just immediately fold. Similar to you with the S word, that we do not use on the golf course, or the yips. Like when some people just can't hear the word yip and they feel like they're going to fucking miss every 2-footer that they look at. So yeah, I think there definitely is certain things, but those dudes are just so good at just keeping all the noise out. And then I feel like you even look at NBA players, like talking to people in the crowd. You look at, NFL players talking to people up in the stands. I feel like golfers are so good at just staying laser focused on the task at hand. And they just hear so much shit, but I honestly thought it was a fun event. There wasn't as many spectators as I would have thought there was. I don't want to say it didn't have juice, but Thursday definitely didn't have any juice. Saturday absolutely had the juice. It was a fun day. I was in the Hooters tent on Saturday. That's called the Owl's Nest, which is pretty great. But I got to say too, that like general admission tickets to this thing were like $80 a pop. And in my opinion, like on a Thursday, I didn't really necessarily think that was worth it. And then the Hooters tent, the Owl's Nest, was $180 a ticket. That did include free beer all day as long as you were in there. So that kind of is worked into that cost there. But you got like 5 boneless chicken wings for free included with your Hooters ticket. I just didn't necessarily see the value because there was legitimately like hardly any seats. So we were standing all fucking day. And I'm like, I paid $180 to stand in this tent and drink Michelob Ultra out of a fucking pitcher all day, you know, like, I don't know. And my idea on value is just skewed to where I didn't necessarily think it was 100% worth $180, but I guess that's just the general going rate for shit anymore. Like to get into a professional sporting event. And then I got to take a step back and realize that we are watching the PGA Tour on a Saturday. There's thousands and thousands of people out here. Some of the biggest names in golf are out here. Like it kind of makes sense. But in my mind, I'm just like $180 for that. I just didn't necessarily see the value in it. it was definitely fun, but I think there's certain ways to go about like going to these tournaments. And I would much rather just walk around and like follow a group or than sitting on one hole at a time. And the one fun part is we were gambling on a lot of golf shots just between the group of us dudes. Like, oh, this guy hits the green, or this guy on the left's closer than the guy on the right, and $20 on 10-1 or 5-1 on chipping in. Like, we were just gambling the entire fucking time. So that made it a lot of fun. But then I'm also the dude that like gets uncomfortable when guys are yelling stupid shit from the stands, and I just don't feel the need. Like Garbs was like, I'm gonna call Justin Thomas a fucking bum. I'm gonna call him a hack. And funny enough, he did end up choking it away down the stretch, but looked like he was gonna win it for a better part of Sunday. And I'm just the kind of guy that feels no need to create any sort of kerfuffle, any sort of fucking buzz, and like potentially get kicked out, because they were kicking quite a few people out of the Owl's Nest for saying some out of pocket shit. And I just don't think it's worth doing. So I was the quieter dude. Shockingly, I know for you to hear that I was the quiet one, but it actually was a thing.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of the like secondhand embarrassment that you get from a show like Impractical Jokers or something like that. But the secondhand embarrassment I get from somebody yelling like a Baba Booey or fucking what's the other light the candle. There's one other one, mashed potatoes. That's it. That everybody feels like they need to say. It's like that shot that Sahith topped and somebody's out there yelling mashed potatoes. Like that would fucking set me off. And it also makes me uncomfortable. I'm never going to be a yell guy, especially at a golf tournament. Like I prefer yelling when I know they cannot hear what I am saying. That is when I prefer.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to have the player directly hear what I'm saying. That just makes me uncomfortable. But let's get to the golf course a little bit quick, because it is one of the more well-liked, like true tests on the PGA Tour. I think a lot of players play in that event because it truly is a great golf course and they kind of know what they're getting into. It's going to be hard. The rough was crazy thick. The greens are really good, but there's really not a lot of holes that you can take off out there. There's no gimmies. Like the par fives, I would say number one is probably the easiest hole on the course. We saw a few eagles out there, but it was funny because Thursday, Jordan Spieth tees off, and we were kind of in this area. It's like a central area between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like it all kind of wraps around. We were in the middle of that stretch of holes, and Jordan Spieth makes eagle on one. Everybody's this huge roar. And I look at Justin and I'm like, I guarantee you he doesn't shoot. I bet he's over par after that eagle by the end of the day. And I think he shot like 3 over after he started with eagle on one. So number one, I think, is by far the easiest hole. But then you get into these par fours where you've got a 20, maybe 30 yard wide area to hit a tee shot. And then the wind picks up, and it's the wind is definitely a factor down there as well, being a few miles off the coast of Florida. So it was just a really, really good test. And let's talk a little bit about the frustrations. Like, so we saw Sahith chuck his club. We saw Patton Kazire punt his putter, which was fucking amazing. He punted it across the green, and then shortly after that withdrew due to an unforeseen injury, which we've all been there. Then you have Adam Hadwin fucking spike the sprinkler, open the sprinkler up, get a bunch of shit for that all over social media. Somebody else stepped up. Justin Lauer jumps out of a bunker, stomps his wedge in half, like completely fucking breaks it right down the middle. So I feel like this golf course, from a test standpoint, and even Michael Kim talked about it on Twitter, it is truly one of the better tests on all of the PGA Tour. And that's why I think a lot of the older, wily veteran dudes like to come down there, because they know kind of what they're getting, and they know if they're hitting the ball well and they're hitting their spots and they can make a few putts and they got a shot.
Yeah, and shout out to Viktor Hovland. Let's talk a little bit about him specifically, just winning this event. Obviously, the graphics have come out, 3 missed cuts back to back to back, and then comes out and wins. And he's a guy that every time he's in the field, he has a chance to win, which he ironically said he didn't think he had a chance to win. One of the crazier quotes I've ever seen from a PGA Tour player, but very real. And we talked about it at length earlier in the more real you are and the more honest you are, the better interview you are, and get a lot of people to really enjoy him. I mean, he's also Norwegian and very chill and plays golf with his dog. Like he's a very liked guy on tour in general. So he's only building that up. But it's cool to see him go out and win an event where it's unfortunately it feels like kind of a Justin Thomas choke a little bit, but also Viktor getting to 12 where he kind of had to not win the event, but he got it handed to him a little bit. At the same time, good to see Viktor win. I don't know. I just, he's one of my favorites and just a guy that makes the tour better. And he's in that like Max Homa, maybe I'm underselling Viktor a little bit there because he's won a FedEx Cup championship before, but he's like that second level of players with the JTs below Scotty right now. I mean, right now, fuck. Scotty's is at the same level as all these dudes, but he's that second level of tour players that is very likable, a pretty known commodity, but has been playing kind of like shit for weeks and weeks on end. And his struggles are a little more documented with all his swing changes and swing coaches, but seeing him win is good for the PGA Tour, I think. And also boosts up, like, now that he's won already this year, going into the majors, and we got major season coming up. Masters is in 3 weeks, and then we have one a month for 4 straight months. He's a guy that you pencil in as like, do I think about this guy or not? Is he going to win this event? And he has the capability to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Viktor talked about his struggles, and it's been pretty widely documented. But when the best players play well, obviously it's going to help the PGA Tour with ratings, because that's what the PGA Tour struggled with. You know, forget not having the hype around the non-signature events and not having the field, but then you have good players in the field and they're missing the cut, or they're just flat out not playing their best golf. And you have, you know, fucking Teddy Bridgewater. No, what was the dude's name? Something Water. I forgot.
Bridgman, Jacob Bridgman.
Bridgman. Yeah, Jacob Bridgman, which honestly very impressed with his swing. Like, watched him hit a few tee shots. He fucking moves it just like they all do out there. But I think I underestimated how good he is. He's only in his second year on the PGA Tour out of Clemson. He's 25 years old. So I definitely think he'll be a player that will win, you know, coming down the stretch here, maybe this year or early next year. But yeah, having the PGA Tour, having Viktor and Justin Thomas kind of battle it out there at the end was like a best possible scenario for this kind of tournament that's tucked in right after the players. You know, you got a signature event hangover, and now everyone's kind of ramping up for the Masters. So it kind of feels like a forgotten event, but then you have a couple of guys up there play well that are supposed to play well, and it definitely feels like it gives it a little bit more pump to it. But I will say, like you mentioned, Justin Thomas going 2 over on the snake pit at the snake pit on Sunday. We were standing on the 16th hole, and that's that tough par 4, that dogleg right around the water. And Justin Thomas hitting driver on 16 really was probably his biggest mistake, because he pumped it through the fairway. You can't hit driver right because the green or the fairway narrows as it gets further around the pond. It's kind of the thickest part of it's right in front of you. And then as it curves up into the right, it narrows up. Like, you legitimately, and with how firm everything was this week, you would not be able to land driver in that little piece of fairway and keep it in the fairway. And then you've got a shot out of the 4 or 5 inch rough, which was not easy at all. So he probably should have just played a little bit more conservative, because that's what Viktor did. Viktor hit driving iron and then hit 8 iron and ended up making, I think, the only birdie on 16 yesterday, all of Sunday on a hole, which was playing, I think it's the toughest hole on the course, 16 is. So Viktor making that birdie there, and then making birdie on 17, which is a 215-yard par 3, a little bit easier pin yesterday. But yeah, JT ends up making that bogey on 18. That kind of felt like it put him out of it, because Viktor drove it right off the tee on 18. And if he would have had to make par, that would have been a good sweat for him and kind of been a little bit of cinema coming down the stretch. But with Viktor only having to make bogey on 18, that kind of took some of the wind out of everybody's sails. Like, this is basically Viktor's to lose at this point. So it was a pretty solid finish. But yes, like you said, I think we'll remember. And now, like, I think they mentioned that JT hasn't won in 3 years. which
2022.
yeah, that is
The player
mind-boggling.
or the PGA Championship in 2022. So his last win is a major.
Yeah, that is wild. Like it feels like he's trending in the right direction, and I do think he is going to win. But I do feel like he's got a little bit of that monkey on his back, similar to Rory when he lost the U.S. Open last year, where he's just like, "Am I ever going to do this again?" And Justin Thomas will win again, but it just is surprising for a guy like him that you see be one of the best players in the world for a good 5-year stretch to now be struggling. And I mean, just like Jordan Spieth, just like a lot of these guys. And that's why I think the jury is still out somewhat on Scotty Scheffler, because we've seen dudes have these fucking phenomenal, crazy Tiger-esque runs, who's the next Tiger? And then 5 years later, they're struggling to make the cut at the fucking Valspar. So, and I think JT actually kind of was pretty close to the cut line. I think he was only 1 under through 2 days and then had a very good weekend. But yeah, it's golf is just a crazy game like that. You can be on top of the world, and then 2 years later, you can be struggling to keep your card. Like that's just the nature of golf.
Yeah, and JT's at least on the upward swing now, as you mentioned, trending in the right direction. Because 2 years, like after he won the PGA Championship, you're like, oh, this guy's going to continue to just win every fifth, sixth event he's in, or be really competitive. And then he hit rock bottom there in like late 23 and early 24, where it's like this guy's barely making cuts. It's kind of like what Max Homa's doing right now as we speak. And now he's back up, and where it's like he's competing again, and you're almost surprised by it. But then you remember how good he was. And now that he's competing more often in almost every event, you're like, okay, maybe he's not 2022 Justin Thomas or major champion Justin Thomas, but he's at least a premier tour player again, one of the top 5 to 10 guys you can kind of throw a dart at in any single event he plays in and think he's going to win it. Some other things from this week we'll get to.
I was just going to say real quick that I don't even know if I would bet on Viktor to win again this season. Like it just feels so weird. I need to see if I'm comparing it to the stock market. It's like one day it just pumps, like goes up 20%, and you're like, holy shit, but you really don't know what it's going to do the next. It's basically Viktor Hovland's golf game is like Tesla stock. Like it's just fucking all over the place. You never know when it's down. Well, you do know when it's down, but you never know when it goes back up. Excuse me, if it's going to stay there or not. It's just, it feels very inconsistent from him right now. And hopefully I want to get back to the point where I can expect Viktor to compete on a weekly basis, but I still, even after this win, I don't know how much confidence it gives him after these, comments he made where he didn't even feel like he hit it well on Sunday. So maybe that's either a good thing for him moving forward, or it could be like I still don't feel like I'm there type of thing.
Yeah, there's just a few players on tour that can really feel like they're honestly not hitting it that well and still end up winning an event that had a decent amount of competition in it. For the rest of the guys that we talk about when we hop on here on a Monday and it's a Peter Malnati winning or something like that, they just had the week of their lives. A guy like Viktor just had a decent week, but he's so uber talented and just good at the game and been there before that he can win an event like that. One of the swings I wanted to talk about, we saw Billy Horschel hit a left-handed shot and get up and down from about 115 to 120 yards. Just wanted to touch on that. That opened up a whole another conversation, which I sent you a tweet. We won't get into that today, but I think that's a great talking point. It's just the amount of people that think they can become a PGA Tour player if it was their only job is hilarious. So we'll get through that, and we'll plan on that next week, and we'll talk about all of the funny responses to that and people just being completely out of their own fucking tree regarding how good they are as players and seeing how good these guys really are. And honestly, one of the things I recommend to people, if you think you can make it on tour based on what you watch on TV in terms of the rounds, and they're always showing the good shots, go watch them on the driving range. And that's when you'll initially realize how different they are. Because even just watching when we went to I'm still mesmerized by the 2010, whatever Solheim Cup that we went to, and watching these girls hit drives that are no joke, moving the exact same way and landing within a 5-yard area 10, 15 times in a row with driver. Pressure of sports gets to you. You get on the golf course, you miss some shots. Obviously, everybody's not hitting everything perfect out there, but go to the driving range and see any professional player hit it, and you'll realize how quickly how dumb you are. So shout out to Billy Horschel for that great shot. And then let's also get into Rio Haisatsuni's putting prowess, if you will, his putting routine. That's the word.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
sometimes I just short circuit and don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
His putting, and it's gone. So Ryu Hitsatsune apparently holds water in his mouth before he hits every putt with, I think, the intention, and Spencer's doing it right now if you're watching on the YouTube. Maybe we'll just keep his mouth shut for the next 20, 30 seconds, which I'm pretty good at because I just fucking talk right through it. But he holds
my
water.
Zen is swimming around, dude. Like my Zen was just flying around. I couldn't do it. I almost swallowed
your fucking Zen. Ryo Hitsatsune holds water in his mouth before every single putt. And I think that is honestly one of the most creative and fucking out of the box things I've ever heard. Like, I feel like I would be so distracted by the water sitting in my mouth, but it really does force you to breathe through your nose, which a lot of people apparently, us as a species, are just getting fucking terrible at. Everybody's a fucking mouth breathing caveman at this point. So everyone breathes through their mouth. Hitsatsune takes a drink of water, holds it in his mouth before every putt. And I saw the video of him walking over to his caddy, taking a drink of his water, and then going and addressing his putt. Like, I feel like that would be so distracting. I would be more focused on the water sloshing around in my mouth than I would be able to focus on the fucking task at hand. But apparently it works for that dude. And that is just one of the million idiosyncrasies that you hear about from these guys on tour. That is, it's just so funny. Like, you see a guy pull their sleeve up before they hit a shot, or you see them have these feels, and it is just so insane that all these dudes get it done a different way. They truly do. There's not one single exact way to get it done. And you look at a guy like Ryo Hitsatsune, who's probably 5'6", fucking probably weighs $140, and he's getting it out there 290 yards, hits it on a rope, fucking putts it great. He's won on the DP World Tour. It just blows my mind that you see dudes like that, and you're like, this dude is, and just the internal confidence you have to have when he is playing alongside a guy who's 6'3", 240, probably hitting it 20 yards past him. It truly is like an impressive thing to watch.
So now you're going to have to fill me in on this for sure, but does he reload with the water if he misses the longer putt and then has to tap in? I'm serious. Like, because for me, if I just had to hold it in there, I'd be a fish by the end of like 4 or 5 rounds. I'd be able to breathe with water in my mouth at all times.
You would definitely stay hydrated if you had to take a drink of water before every putt you hit. That's for sure. But I am not sure. I honestly would assume he does it for the longer putts. Maybe he just keeps holding it in his mouth until he holds the ball. So, if he's spending 2-3 minutes on the putting green, that water, there's probably some fucking algae growing in his mouth because it's just sitting there in that wet, moist environment where things are able to grow. But that, I honestly was just, my mind was blown by the fact that he's able to, like, as you can tell, if you've ever listened to this podcast, my level of focus is that of like a fucking bird. So the fact that this guy can take a drink of water, be so locked in to simply just breathe through his nose the whole time, and also putt at a PGA Tour level pretty successfully is one of the greater feats that I've ever heard of. So I figured we had to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try that now. I also ordered those TikTok nasal strips, the magnetic ones. I'm waking up every day with this goddamn sore throat and all this shit in my throat and coming up, and I'm going to be better and try to change this and get my nostrils open, which is a pretty large gap.
I know,
pretty large undertaking for this fucking nasal strip that's going to get delivered to me, but we'll see how it fares.
I mean, for both of us, we both have huge nostrils. Like, I have no idea why I struggle with constantly stuffed nose when I'm like, there has to be a fucking area somewhere for air to get through. But I honestly think I might consider trying mouth tape. Like, it's just weird with the mustache, and I like to throw that middle of the night Zen in. Like, that doesn't help because if my mouth's tape closed, then I'm fucking. I'm sure Missy would love it because then I can't fucking talk. She just knows I shut the fuck up for a certain period of time until the mouth tape is off. But I might give it a shot. I might take a no thank you bite on the mouth tape and just see how it works. Also, real quick, I got to give a shout out to Zin. No free shout outs, but Zin had a Zin trailer out at the Valspar, and they were selling maximum 3 cans per person for $1 a pop. So I ended up I convinced one of the other dudes in our group to buy me more. So I was rolling around at any given time on Thursday or Saturday with 6 cans of Zins in my pocket. But I brought back a nice bounty of 12 cans for $12. So I was like, I should have hired fucking 20 people to just bring me back. I should have checked a bag and just gotten 200 cans of Zins while I was there.
Yeah, you just have all the old ladies and men, you're just fucking paying them cash and giving them a $5 for every 3 cans. They get to keep 2. That's incredible. And what a great place to set up. I mean, they're pretty popular everywhere, no free shout outs, but if you're at a golf course, there's a good chance about 70% of the male population at that golf course is either on Zins or definitely on some sort of nicotine pouches, where if they're getting them for $1 a can out of farm to table, right to your hand, you're definitely hopping on that opportunity.
Oh yeah.
Let's wrap this.
I did get a sticker as well too, so that's pretty cool.
Let's go. That's gas. I love that. Let's wrap this pod up with a little Mulligan Monday, as we do every single week. So this is something that happened to us in the past week that we wish we could go back and take a mulligan on. I'll start out something with my kid. No shocker here, but started out as a really good story, and now it's turned into kind of a disaster. Yesterday I was taking out the recycling, and he had to be with me. So he was helping me. I was one arm holding him, one arm holding my recycling can. And I brought it outside, dumped it in the trash or the recycling bin, brought it back inside. And then I put it on the ground so I could set him down, and he looked in it, and I said, "No, that's empty. And I'm trying to teach him words, like just random words. So I talk really slow and concise and, explain things that nobody really needs to explain. But he goes, "Empty." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, like he got it." But now this morning I'm fucking sitting there, and he goes into the recycling, which is now half full, turns it upside down, just goes, "Empty, empty." And everything that has anything in it now, he just decides to dump out and say empty afterwards. So I think I've created a little bit of a nightmare here, if not just add it to the list of things. But yeah, his toy box yesterday, flip over, empty. I'm like, oh my God. Here we go.
You got to put some boundaries on that. Kids are they blow my mind, the tiny little brains, and they just want to do the exact same thing over and over again. Which is kind of like my brain, I guess. Everyone's creatures of habit. So I can't wait until he's big enough to pick up the bag of dog food and fucking tip that upside down all over your kitchen and be like, "Empty."
Bro, he's obsessed with the dog food, and he's still eating it a little bit, but I try to keep him off that.
I forgot he's eating dog food.
He's now found our like ice cream scooper that has like the thing, like you would get at a homemade ice cream shop, where it has the twist handle, or the handle where you push the button and then it shoots under it. So and he's gotten that, and he's getting that in the dog food and then going and like scooping them food. Dude, he's just like a terror.
Does he like the dog food? Like when he eats it, does he make a face? Like,
no, I think he likes it, which is scary. And then every time you catch him with it in his mouth, and I just give him that look, like that, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" look. And then he screams and fucking throws it on the ground. I'm like,
honestly,
here we go.
Dog food is one of the grossest things in the world to me. Like when I smell it, I just immediately want to yak. So the fact that he's putting that shit in his mouth is a little bit jarring to me.
Yeah, I think he knows it's a forbidden fruit. So, as humans, human nature, we just can't go away from the forbidden fruits.
Oh my God.
That's the issue.
Dude. Just picturing your son looking at the bag of dog food, like salivating, is fucking got me absolutely disgusted. My mulligan of the week is, so I was playing golf with Garbs and Doug Sr., which Doug Sr., Dougie's dad, is one of the funniest motherfuckers.
Greatest human on this planet, dude. Absolute legend. So I want to be exactly like that when I'm in the 70s.
I'll give you a quick rundown. We're on the 11th hole, and I've been drinking Surfsides all day. And I got myself a 6-pack. I usually go 3 per 9. I feel like 6 in a round of golf is pretty reasonable. one every 3 holes. That's a drink every like 45 minutes. So I didn't feel that bad about it. But on the 11th hole, he busts out a whole handle of vodka out of his golf bag. A big ass fucking handle of vodka. And I was like, hey, do you mind throwing me a little bit of vodka in my Surfside just to add a little bit of juice to it? And he throws a little vodka in there, and then he goes, oh, that's not enough. So then he takes his own cocktail that he just made himself, dumps it into my can for me. I'm like, bro, I'm fine with just, there's already liquor in this. Like, you don't need it. He's like, oh, dude, he's like, this thing's full of vodka. And then I make a couple birdies after that. And I'm like, you have any other liquor, like bourbon or whatever? Because he mentioned something earlier about having something else. I was like, what else you got? And he's like, oh, yeah, I got bourbon. Pulls out a whole bottle of Woodford Reserve out of his golf bag that's like a third full. And he looks at me and he goes, let's finish this thing. And there's like this much left in the bottle. And I'm like, you want to finish it right now? Like, you fucking, there's like probably a good 8 or 9 shots in there. So I take a pull off of it. We're on like the 14th tee. I take a pull. He looks at me. He goes, take another one. So I took another one, like back to back, just 2 big swigs of this whiskey. And then he looks at it. He's like, okay, I'll finish it. And he just probably chugged it for like 5 straight seconds, finishes this bottle of whiskey. So he was fucking good and tuned up. But it was me and Dougie Sr. against Doug and Justin, and we had a match going that we were relatively handling them. I was giving Doug 2 shots aside and Justin 7 or 8 shots aside. And so long story short, we're 1 up going into 18. I made bogey on 17. It was fucking stupid. But I was a little tuned up at that point. Like, me and Dougie Sr. was getting off the rails. Like, I think he hit the ball 12 times on 17. He hit it into a tree. It fell under the tree. He hits it into another tree, falls under that tree. He's fucking wandering around these people's backyards. So I make bogey on 17. We're 1 up. It's a par 5. And I hit a pretty decent shot. Like, I had like 250 in. And I kind of could have gone for it in 2, but I had some overhanging limbs. I was just in the rough on the right. So I actually hit driver off the deck and like hit it like 2 feet off the ground, this little baby cut that runs up like 60 yards from the green right in front. Dougie and Justin are over there fucking around in the trees. They both hit it left off the tee. So then Justin has got 100. Oh, and I got to backtrack a little bit. So I helped Justin with his golf swing a few times, and that is my mulligan, is helping him on the golf course. Because I helped him on the front 9 get his back hit, his trail hip turning a little bit better, and he immediately started making a better move. And then I fixed his grip for him on the 15th tee while we were 2 up, thinking this isn't a threat. It's fine. Like, we've got this shit in the bag. And then on 18, he's got 140 in on his 3rd shot, flies it directly into the fucking hole. Like, I heard it hit 3 or 4 inches up on the bottom of the flag. I heard this, like, if you've played enough golf, you know what it sounds like when it hits the flag. It's not, he goes, did that go in the bunker? And I'm like, no, it hit the flag and it flew directly in the fucking hole. And so he ends up making an net double eagle on 18 to come back and push the match. And I did not hear the fucking end of it the rest of the weekend. I texted Justin today and thanked him, and him and Dougie just kept going, caw, caw, like they're fucking dancing around like birds. And so I thank Justin for letting me stay with him and everything today. And he just replies, caw, caw. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I'm never going to hear the end of this shit. So, you try to help a guy out and it just comes back to bite you in the ass. I was like, I never should have fucking fixed anything for you. I should have let you hit it all over the fucking map. And then I could have helped you in the parking lot.
Kind of electric your teaching turned that quickly, though. That's always a good feeling, because I'm not having that feeling with a lot of the times I help people. So shouts to you for that.
He started hitting a lot of better golf shots. I just changed his grip, just the way he had it oriented in his hand. It wasn't really out in his fingers. It was more running through the middle of his hand, and then just helped him turn his hips a little bit better, make a little bit bigger turn to get his hands a little bit deeper around him. But when I tell you, I mean, the dude probably swings it close to 120 miles an hour, probably 115, 120. But when he slices it, it is fucking off the map. So I was like, I can't watch this dude hit it all over fucking God's green earth anymore. I got to fix his grip. And then all of a sudden he's hitting it fucking 310 right down the middle. I'm like, what is this? And he was like, dude, when I'm done playing football, you got to just come down for like a month. I'll just hire you to come down for like a month. And he's like, make me a scratch golfer. Kind of like the similar conversation that we were having earlier. He's like obsessed with golf.
Yeah, it's incredible to see somebody that obsessed. I love it. I love when, especially when you're in the NFL and you have a job that's 99.9% of people are just obsessed over you and your job, and then you just want to be good at something else. That's what I love about golf, is all these athletes that are just so addicted to golf and want to be obsessed with it, even though they're already a professional athlete in another sport. It's great. It's great. And we're great. And we're talking about the sport of golf every single week. We kind of workshopped it, but basically going forward, we'll be recording the pod on every single Wednesday pretty much. And then we'll also be going live later in the afternoon on Sundays when the majors and or signature events are coming down the stretch. So make sure you're tuning into those live shows. And then every single Wednesday, right around noon Eastern time, 10 a.m. Mountain time, depending upon where you're listening to us. We appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode of Big Drive Energy. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up on the way out if you're still here and watching on the YouTube. Any of the audio files you're listening to, make sure you give us a rating on that platform. That would help us out a ton. We appreciate you all tuning in. We will be back next Wednesday after the Children's Shriners, Texas, something other. What is it?
It's the Houston Open this week.
There's something with children's, I promise you.
It's definitely
something Children's Houston Open.
Let's just dial this in to end the pod. It is the Texas Children's Houston Open.
There we go. Texas Children's Houston Open. We'll be out with picks again. Shout out to me for my Davis Riley top 10 at plus 1,000. Cash that baby out. And we'll be back next week. We will talk to you then. Have a great week. Enjoy March Madness. Enjoy the Children's Texas China Open. Have a great week and a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.